Hey guys, it's Adam from Paul and Adam. We do our Driveway Drive-In podcast, and that's the whole purpose of our channel. We messaged Paul earlier today, and just because of logistics right now, I live way too far from him, and I just had a baby. Well, I didn't, but the lady that I live with did. And logistically, we're still going to get together and do our podcasts. And we're even going to do some remote podcasts. We actually even have one in the bag, which, we just need some fine tuning before we can send it out. But we're also going to do some side projects like this, just to get some content on the channel and get some exposure. And this is the V.I.P Lounge, starring me, Adam. And I'm going to take it upon myself to review every movie in the Howling franchise, except for the first one. The first one, me and Paul already did a podcast on. I'll put the link in the description if you want to hear our thoughts on that. It's probably one of our best podcasts that we did. But anyway, the Howling came out in 1981. And it's wildly, regarded as top 5 werewolf movie of all time, probably top 2. For most people, you either have The Howling or American Werewolf in London as your favorite werewolf film, and it probably depends on your personality, which one you go for. I'm more of an American Werewolf guy, but that being said, I dig The Howling. I thought it was a great film. Rob Bottin, special effects wizard. The special effects work he did in that film is just off the charts. And it's, some of that stuff is still being looked at today and being marveled at. But, that leads us to our first sequel, I guess. The Howling II. It came out in 1986. Now, a lot of films today, they don't go with the numerical route with sequels, like part 2, part 3. They always have kind of like an alternate title that they kind of like attach to it, like Ghostbusters, Afterlife, or what's another one? If I could come up with 2 examples, I would really nail my point home. But at the moment, how about God, there's got to be another one. All right, well, we'll come back to that. But in any event, this one is Howling 2, and the subtitle is Your Sister is a Werewolf. Your Sister is a Werewolf is what they called this one. And keep in mind, the first film was not a comedy. It was absolutely straight horror. Absolutely straight horror. But does Your Sister is a Werewolf? Does that sound like straight horror to you? I don't know. So immediately, right off the bat, nobody's taking this movie seriously. Like, why should they? Us, the actors involved, the people making the film. Apparently, so Joe Dante did the original film, right? And it starred Dee Wallace as Karen White, who was this journalist who, had to go to a psychiatric community in this remote mountain town. And I'm not going to spoil it. We do have a whole podcast on it, but anyway, it connects to this film in some ways. But off of the success of this first film, The Howling, you would think that this director, Philip Mora, would have had some desire to kind of spring off of that, or build off of that mythology. But he didn't. He was content just doing some sort of like Euro trash. I don't know what to call it, except Euro trash film that had werewolves in it and trolls and a lot of dwarves. And we'll get into that. Is that PC dwarves? It's what they were called in the casting sheet. Maybe little people, but there are a lot of them. A lot of them. So anyway, let's run down like the cast, because actually the cast is worth talking about. Christopher Lee, who was Dracula for how many years during the Hammer films? Probably the second most recognizable Dracula behind Bela Lugosi. Later in life, he did, Star Wars and Lord of the Rings. But I also did some heavy metal music, and I don't know, he was a cool guy. He also hunted Nazis. How about that? During World War II. But you didn't know that. Sybil Danning is in this film. She's famous for being hot. She's an old lady now. So she's not famous anymore. But when in her prime, she was famous for being hot. You know, she had attributes that I guess were considered appealing. And I feel no need to look up her filmography. But she stars as Sturba in this film, who is the immortal werewolf goddess. That's who she is. And last but certainly not least, we have Reb Brown. Reb Brown. And if you don't know who Reb Brown is, well, all right, so that was Reb Brown. So if you haven't been introduced to Reb Brown in the past, that had to have been a special treat for you. He's the most charismatic Mongoloid in the history of film. What he lacks in any sort of like acting ability, because he clearly has none. He makes up for it with screaming and good intentions, I guess. But Red Brown is he's amazing. Anyway, he's in this movie, and he is actually, this is kind of surprising. He's the brother of Dee Wallace's character in the original Howling movie. Now, when me and Paul originally did our Howling podcast, I know I went on a tangent for a good, 10, 15 minutes about how all of these Howling sequels, they might as well just be anthologies because none of them tie into, the first film. There's no continuity. And that was dead wrong because here we have Reb Brown, the legendary Reb Brown, cast as Karen's brother. So, I'll take a loss there, I guess. But anyway, so the movie kind of starts out, and they're at the church where Karen from the first film, if you remember, she turned into a werewolf and tried to warn the world about werewolves during the news broadcast, and she was gunned down. So this is her funeral. And that's, what Christopher Lee kind of just sort of shows up as this mysterious guy who, knows everything about werewolves, apparently. So, like, this is the first time Christopher Lee, I guess his name is Stefan, meets Reb Brown. I'm only going to call him Reb Brown, by the way. I don't care what his character name is. It's the first time he meets Reb Brown, and it's right after his sister's, the funeral mass, and he's like outside talking to him, like, I don't know, trying to sell him on this idea, like he's like a used car salesman or something, like giving him a pitch, just really kind of awkward.
Meet your film crew out at the Hollywood Reservoir. It's just a vibe. You sick, buddy? My sister's dead. She's an immortal soul, which is in very grave danger. I just buried my sister. Please leave me alone.
Okay, so how was that? I told you it was awkward. I worked so long on that Billy Madison joke, and I know it probably fell flat because of my lack of technical prowess. I'm this middle-aged guy trying to figure out this editing stuff for the first time, but it took me way too long to put that together for me not to use it. I know it was 2 seconds, but when you're a novice at doing this stuff, man, it's a little challenging. Anyway, so they're at the church, and Christopher Lee's, I don't know, passing on his information to Reb Brown, and just trying to, I guess, recruit him, Reb Brown, that is, to help him stop the werewolf horde that it's going to eventually take over the world. So, noble cause. But I do have to say, the dialogue, in this movie is borderline. No, it's not borderline. It's ridiculous. And I just think it's funny because Christopher Lee was notorious for, refusing to recite dialogue for some of the later Hammer Dracula films, because he I'm paraphrasing, but he was basically like, I don't want to look ridiculous, and this dialogue that you're handing me, and asking me to say on camera, well, it makes me look ridiculous.
Mr. Crosco. How do you know my name?
I've seen you on television.
What do you know about the death of Karen White?
I know that she is a werewolf.
I just don't know if that dialogue in this movie is any better. Like, how you're telling me that the dialogue in the Hammer films is worse than the dialogue in any of these scenes in this movie? In My Sister is a Werewolf? I don't know. I just don't buy that. I just don't buy that. Yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I forget. Speaking of jokes that fall flat, I'm sure some of you have noticed.
I am a great magician. Your clothes are red.
Wow! Please,
Do it again. Your clothes are black. Oh, the council will not be pleased.
So now you have to think, did he change his shirt just for that joke? Or is he filming this on a different day than the red shirt? How desperate is he? Pretty desperate. Although this is not the same day as the intro, if that makes you feel any better. But anyway, as the film continues, first of all, the plot's all over the place. So if you're not really getting a grasp on the story, don't feel bad, because there really is none. Immediately after the scene at the church, we're actually, it's a whole other set piece. It's a whole other venue where Christopher Lee goes to a rock concert. And I guess this is like the rock venue is like where some of these werewolves hang out. And this is a highlight of the movie. Now, after the rock and roll show, basically, you know, some of the werewolves in attendance are able to trick some of the people, you know, some of the partiers, ravers, headbangers, I don't know, whatever you whippersnappers are called when you go to a music venue. They were able to lure them into a warehouse where these and it was actually a pretty good scene where the werewolves like kind of like trick them in thinking that they are about to be attacked by them, you know, like they're vulnerable. And then, you know, it's a whole making the you know, prey think that they're the predator when it's actually the other way around. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself because this rock concert is probably the only reason to watch this film, because I watched this movie 2 days ago and I still have this song in my head. I still have it in my head. I don't know, man. It's like trying to think this band. I didn't look up the band. I should have looked up the band name, but they're like a cross between like Talking Heads and Tears for Fears or something. And the song is just like, I don't know. That's a damn good song. It's a damn good song. It's been a long time since a song in a movie made me pause it and run to YouTube to go to figure out what it was. In case you're wondering, this is the VIP lounge, and we do allow alcohol in the VIP lounge. Norlight, not a sponsor. But anyway, where were we? So after the rock and roll concert and the massacre at the warehouse, Reb Brown and company hook up with Christopher Lee, who was at the rock concert. I don't know if I mentioned that. And he had like these pretty cool shades on. I don't know if this was before or after he started dabbling in heavy metal, which he definitely did later in life. Who knows? Maybe this scene is what inspired it. You know, inspires me. That song inspires me. I'm going to do something great. I'm not sure what it is. But anyway, so they hook up with Christopher Lee and they go to his house, which is just like this ridiculous, like there's werewolf stuff everywhere, like tacky werewolf stuff. And he sits Reb Brown and the lady. I'll look up her name during the next break. I don't remember her name either, although she looks like Eric Stoltz. The lady kind of looks like Eric Stoltz.
Damn, head off!
Listen to him, Ben. He knows what he's talking about.
Okay, so was I wrong? I might be unkind, but I'm not wrong. They look very similar. Like, have those two people ever been spotted at the same restaurant at the same time? Yeah, one of those situations. But anyway, her name is Annie McEnroe. Unless that's like a pseudonym for Eric Stoltz. And she plays Jenny Templeton. So she's sort of the female protagonist and Reb Brown's eventual love interest. So there you have that. So as I said, they go to Christopher Lee's house. And, you know, it's basically just a house full of werewolf memorabilia. You know, some of it looks very fake. But he's there, you know, he brings them there to kind of like convince them to be a part of his crusade. And one of his biggest recruiting tools is the VHS tape from the news station where, you know, in Howling I, Karen, you know, in the infamous and iconic scene where she turns into a werewolf to try to warn the world about werewolves. And she ends up turning into some sort of, well, it's like a were shih tzu. It's not really a werewolf. You know, it could probably pass even for like a Wookiee, honestly. But the emotional impact of that scene cannot be denied. It really can't. It's like one of the best scenes in a werewolf movie ever, and you know, it's still very impactful.
Make me believe.
All right, so that's a powerful scene, right? Very powerful scene, even if she looks, I don't know, like a dog, like a menacing monster. Still a very powerful scene, sad scene. You can tell it was really in the capable hands of like a director who knew what he was doing. But now we got to move on, as we all do in life. We got to move on to our new guy. Joe Dante was, the girl of our dreams that we could never have, and Philip Mora is the sad reality of life. This is what this was his interpretation of the scene. I think you'll see it's slightly different. Quite a contrast in styles, wouldn't you say? On the one hand, you have the Mona Lisa. On the other hand, you have, your drunk uncle trying to finger paint. Yeah, terrible. Just awful. And honestly, though, I mean, the best thing about the scene in Howling II is Reb Brown should have won an Oscar for that scene alone. I mean, did you see the pain in his eyes? AKA the blank stare. He must have dug down deep for that performance. That was some method acting. The director must have said, your sister just died. You're watching it on video. Act like a plank of wood. And he did great. He did fantastic. Okay, so because of this scene, Reb Brown gets suspicious of Christopher Lee. Christopher Lee kind of implied during this meeting that he was going to stake his sister, who, if you remember, just got buried. But she died. And Reb Brown, doesn't like that one bit. So he ends up going to the mausoleum to stop Christopher Lee from doing this. But that's kind of like when he figures out that, okay, this actually is a real thing, because he gets attacked by a bunch of werewolves. And this is the most Reb Brown scene in the movie because, he just goes completely Neanderthal with it.
No more time.
Wait, you wait for my sister, I'll blow your damn head off!
Listen to him, Ben. He knows what he's talking about.
What about my sister? He doesn't.
Okay, so we got to hear the epic war cry of Reb Brown, which is just a joy to behold. I wish I had that as like a ringtone on my phone. So anyway, yeah, they slaughter a bunch of werewolves, and finally, you know, Christopher Lee or Stefan Krosko, as he's called in the movie. You know, he's produced a videotape with Red Brown's sister, who now turns into a wombat. You know, is on it, and also, you know, this massacre at the mausoleum. So now they're sold. They are on board with the mission, and they go to Transylvania with Stefan, Christopher Lee, to battle Sturba. Let me make sure I'm pronouncing that correctly, because that sounds weird. Sturba, who is Sybil Danning again, who's the immortal werewolf queen. So our first taste of like Transylvania, they show this scene where, you know, and witchcraft is very much involved with these werewolves. It's not just, you know, hey, I'm a werewolf. Like there's more to it. It's complicated. It's a complicated film. But anyway, they show this like ceremony that they're doing, and like this old hag lady basically steals the vitality of some young peasant girl and turns into Sybil Danning. You know, the boxing beauty, Sybil Danning. But she's got this like guy that she messes around with. Sybil Danning does. I don't know, between the guy and the ceremony and everything, honestly, there are times when I was watching this film where I couldn't remember if I was watching, you know, a horror movie or if I was watching, you know, like Conan the Barbarian, because I don't know, there seemed to be some similarities.
I've never prayed to you before. I have no tongue for it.
So immediately after the ceremony, Sybil Manning takes the guy who has like the Cousin Eddie mud flap hat on. I don't know what you call that. She takes him and the other werewolf girl, and she takes them to a special location so that they can have a werewolf orgy. And yeah, that sounds about as pleasant. It sounds as pleasant as it looks visually, which isn't pleasant at all. You know, I know in the 70s with porn, there was no Nair or hygiene standards, so people are pretty hairy. I kind of imagine that's kind of like what this was like, because oh man, it's just an upsetting scene. It's not fun. It's disturbing in so many ways, and you know, if I was disturbed, you're going to be disturbed. So let's watch it. All right, so I kind of spared you because that was sort of like an edited, chippy choppy music video version of the scene, not the actual scene. And don't be mad because I did you a favor. I did you a solid because it's pretty gross. And like and the thing about it is too is as the movie goes on, they keep cutting back to it. Like the scene doesn't end. Those three hairy individuals are in bed doing things for like up until the end of the film when Sybil Danning is actually tasked to do something. Prior to that, she's just involved with these two people, getting hair in her mouth. I don't know. Before we continue to kind of like get that out of our heads, here's Reb Brown bouncing. All right, so now our heroes are in Transylvania, where the werewolves are, and you know, apparently there are a lot of little people, although they're not little people. They're like goblins. They're like deformed little beings, but whatever. In Transylvania, apparently there's a whole lot of miniature mutant people going on because that's all you see in the last act of the film. It's just all these little creatures, little guys, trying to get into Reb Brown's way, which unfortunately results in a lot of unnecessary dwarf death at the hands of Reb Brown. I do want to show you an example of that right now.
Don't be afraid. I just want to ask you a question. Where did you get this?
I don't know. Those doll mask dwarf guys, that's enough to give you nightmares for a month, right? Like that's some freaky stuff. That's some David Lynch, Twin Peaks. You know, there's a troll in your toaster for no reason, kind of freaky stuff. Right? Anyway, after that, after Reb Brown rids Transylvania of dwarves, you know, it's kind of like St. Patrick ridding Ireland of snakes. I think there's a St. Reb Day in Transylvania. You know, the trio of Reb, Eric Stoltz woman, and Christopher Lee are able to infiltrate the castle of the werewolf princess, Sybil Danning, and you know, a battle ensues, and we learn, you know, it's an M. Night Shyamalan. Am I saying that correctly? M. Night Shyamalan caliber twist. where we learned the title of the film was a spoiler the whole time. Honestly, I didn't even think of it one time. Like the movie's called Your Sister's a Werewolf. I didn't even think one time who the brother was. Did you? Because I didn't. Actually, the brother's Christopher Lee. Christopher Lee is the brother of Sybil Danning, who, you know, in the manner of like Game of Thrones, tries to seduce her own brother. Incest was so big in like the Dark Ages, I guess. But he pulls some shenanigans on her instead of joining her with the other werewolf orgy occupants. He stabs her with the titanium blade and kills her, and they burn to death. It's lovely. It's a lovely scene. And that's it. And then right after this, they do show a little clip. Deb and Eric Stoltz. Deb. It's like Laverne and Shirley. All of a sudden, no. Reb and Eric Stoltz are now living together. They're a couple. They're officially a couple. And they get a really weird knock on the door, which they think is a costume. But it's just, it's so bizarre.
Trick or treat! Strange looking child.
Yeah, so, it's a happy ending, except for the weird little werewolf kid showing up at their door for no reason on Halloween. What's the riddle there? What's the clue? You need a Rosetta Stone to figure this out, because I don't get it. But anyway, that's essentially the movie, right? I kind of fast forwarded through the end there. I'm sure you noticed. But this movie's not good, and I kind of just wanted to bite the bullet and get through this one. Although, the next one's going to be even better. Howling III, the marsupials. You know what that is? You know what a marsupial is? Don't Google. Don't go to Wikipedia. Don't cheat. It's like a kangaroo. It's like a mammal with a little tummy pouch to put their babies and car keys and stuff. It's the same director, my man. What do I call this guy? Phil Mora. Same guy, same director. So should be a lot of fun. But anyway, thanks for tuning in and listening to me talk about this terrible movie. Hey, I watched it, so you didn't have to. I guess that's kind of the theme of the show. And let's have Steve Parsons and Babel in the Howling Club mix. Take us out. What a fitting tribute. Anyway, thanks for watching, and tune in next time to the VIP Lounge. Bye.